Okay, Rabbi. Whenever you want to start.
Very good. Let's make a bracha.
Amen.
So, Vayishlach Hashem, this evening we're learning the Dvar Malchus of the Rebbe, what he gave over on Parshas Vayishlach, Toshin Nun Beis. And the learning is taking place in the base campus at Tzedek in Ira Kodesh, Ira Ha'atika, Tsfat, Tibenu Shechenen, B'mheira V'yomeinu Omein.
Amen.
And tonight is Moitzoi Yud Dalet Kislev, Oyer Le'er Shabbos Kodesh B'Kislev, Toshin Pei. And Kemuvan, we welcome with bracha all those who take part. So, as has been customary over recent weeks and months, I'm going to try and come in at a certain point after what I hope will be a brief summing up. There's certainly what to sum up. And then we'll try to come in at a point where we'll also gain a detail, as much as time permits, we'll gain a detailed picture of the latter part of the Sikha. So this amazing Dvar Malchus concerns itself with the yontif of Rosh Hashanah, L'Chassidus, Yud Tes Kislev, Yom HaShichro Shel Admor HaZoken, V'Yitzia Shel Teres HaChassidus MiHaKidron, Shahaya Milamayla, Ba'even Shel Didon Notzach, Ba'even הייתי אומר, מרחב עצמי ביותר, on Yud Tes Kislev. I should speak up more?
English. English.
Australian.
I'm not talking in English.
Yes, you are. Now you are.
I'm sorry.
For a while without.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. I'm just so used to switching from one language to the other. I sometimes forget. So we're learning the Dvar Malchus of Parshas Vayishlach, Toshin Nun Beis. And where I want to come in is on the main theme of the Sikha, and that is that the Rebbe points out to us that it's makubal by Yidden, and there's plenty on which to base oneself, that from the appearance of the moon at the beginning of the month, up until from a nakuda of non-existence for a minute, then gradually expanding until Tsfat, that's the Milui Halavana, well, that is considered an augure's time. Why? Because that's when the moon and the discourse of the moon is gradually filling. And we reach a point on Tsfat b'chodesh, milui halavona, and that's called in the Zohar HaKodesh, kaima sihara ba'ashlemusa, that the sihara is standing in its perfection. After that, on Tesayim, which is Shabbos, by the way, Tesayim and further, the moon begins to retract, begins to go down until it becomes once again a point where it becomes completely batil, the Metzias, like Gafne. So that's l'choira a siman, since you didn't count to the Lavona, and they're also like the Lavona, and all the things which are applicable to the Lavona are applicable to the Jewish people. As in Cain, when between the 1st of the month and the 15th of the month, when the moon is gradually building up to a state of giving off light in the fullest form, on Tsfat b'chodesh, that's a similar of Aliyah, and the highest point is Tsfat b'chodesh. As in Cain, says the Rebbe, the Yud Tes Kislev is known from all of the Rebbeim, and particularly the Rebbe Rayatz, in his famous statement, he referred to Yud Tes Kislev as the Chag HaChagim. It's like the highest of all of our keeping of all of our Yom Tovim, all derived from the Chag of Yud Tes Kislev. In Cain, why is it that Yud Tes Kislev is not like the other Yom Tovim? Either it's on Tesbol, like Sukkot and Pesach, or Shavuos is even before. Yeah, Shavuos is when the moon is building up. It's before Tesbol. Why is it that Yud Tes Kislev is dark when the moon is going down? And the same question applies to Chag Hanukkah, which has many similar aspects to it, like Yud Tes Kislev. It's also concerned with Pnimis HaTorah, with all sorts of inyanim. And it occurs on Kof Hey, the Kislev, which is later, and in the middle, towards the close. Maybe I'm talking too soft. And towards the close of Hanukkah, and actually the last day of Kislev and the disappearance of the moon altogether occurred during Hanukkah itself. So Hanukkah is a great Yom Tov. Why would it occur at a point when the moon is going down? And we find this question can be expressed in different ways, but that's the generality of the whole question. And the Rebbe said, l'choira, if I'm going to say that the perfection of the month is only up till the 15th, and then the moon representing the whole Indian of time and of Pnimius, according to Yidden, it starts going down, then we should count the days of the month, the 15 up till the 15th, and then we should start counting downwards, after a different type of counting, starting going 14, 30, going down from the middle of the month towards it. If it's an Amasa Yerida. Barichas, the Rebbe points out that it's not, because we find that if you take, and the Rebbe in detail goes into it, if you take all the numbers from Tesayim and further, and you examine either their gematria or what they represent, just the way they are. Take, for example, Chai Kislev. Chai is in Turkic of Chayas, or Gute Sachen. And Yud Zayin, for example, is gematria Toi. Yeah, and so the Rebbe goes on, and we find that the more the numbers go further away from Tesbol, they become equally elevated, if not with a supremacy of elevation, mitzad what they represent. And so they're not only going down, but they seem to be going up in some form of pneumius implication. If that's the case, look, it's like two things. On the one hand, the moon is going down, but yet the numbers are indicatory of some form of very pneumistic aliyah. So that's basically the question that the Rebbe deals with. Even though Kedar B'Koit, she goes into different aspects of it, but that's an akut. So we have then a particular shiloh in the get, a certain Yom Tovim, that they occur in the second part of the month when the moon is going down. And we have a general question, why don't we count the whole month differently than we do? So the Rebbe develops a whole rare theme. I don't want to say it's a completely new theme, because it occurs in the Siddur of the Alter Rebbe, in a manner that the Alter Rebbe has in the Siddur. And it's also brought down in a manner from the Rebbe Rashab, interestingly enough, in 100 years away from now, in Tov Reish Pei, from the Rebbe Rashab, where both of these Maimorim come up with a whole new principle, what the Rebbe is going to tell us here. And that is that it's a whole new view of how the moon works and how it functions compared to the sun. Normally, we assume that the nearer the moon moves to the sun, towards the sun, then it's getting more light. The closer it becomes to the sun, it's able to receive more light. So it's moving closer the whole time, but then its light is increasing. By the Tsfat, it's already reached the highest point. And after that, it begins to, as it were, distance itself, being mitrachek, meha shem. That's the way we understand it. So the Rebbe says that the Alter Rebbe writes over there in the Siddur, he's actually the opposite. Over there, the Alter Rebbe said that why does it give off light up until the 15th? Because it's going away, it's moving away from the Shemesh. Why is it that after Tsfat, there can be a yontif like Yud-Tes Kislev or Chanukah? Why? Because really what happens is that the moon is moving closer to the sun. So he said, moon and sun, or sun and moon, are like mashpia and makabel. So when it's understood that there are two separate entities, a mashpia and a makabel, so then if he's a good makabel, the way he should be, then he gets light from the mashpia, and as long as he's near the mashpia, he doesn't feel comfortable giving off that light, because the mashpia is giving the light, not him. But if he's distancing himself from the mashpia, then it's even a choyev on his part to give off the light that he got. So what happens with the moon is that the moment of the appearing of the moon, that is a time where the moon is a makabel and the sun is a mashpia, in a way that that's its highest point. And it gives a very intense light there, but we don't notice that, because let's put it this way, it's all busy from the mashpia going to the makabel. And so the moon is still close to the sun. It doesn't really give off the light, but it starts to move away from the sun. So the further it moves away from the mashpia, it gives off the light. And so when it reaches the 15th of the month, it's furthest away from the mashpia, therefore it's giving a lot of light, because it received tremendous amount at that one intense moment of the appearance of the month. So it's the opposite to what the world usually understands. By the time you reach the 15th, you've gone further away from the Shemesh. What happens is that after the 15th, the moon begins to move closer to the Shemesh. So he said, Emerson Makabo, who comes close to the Mashpia or feel even that he's getting closer, he becomes more batel, to use the Siddish expression. And he doesn't want to, how he could make noticeable his Matthias, because he's batel, like every the Mashpia. The Mashpia is the whole Matthias. Yeah, so he keeps getting closer, so the oil that he has to give goes down, because he doesn't want to give. He's batel completely to the Mashpia. And there's a point, which is the end of Chanukah, exactly the opposite of what the Kasha implied, that right at the end of the month, he reaches the fullest kiru to the Mashpia. Remember, he's batel b'matzias altogether. He feels absolute bittul to the Mashpia. Therefore, he doesn't give up anything. Clearly, he becomes like batel altogether for a moment. And then he starts moving away again. Oh, that's when the light reappears, isn't it? At the moment. So then the Rebbe says there's another way that we can understand it, even deeper. It's the same basic principle, but even deeper. So what that implies is that there's still like a mashpia and a makabel, but the makabel, becomes batel altogether to the mashpia. However, there's a pasuk in Yeshaya Novi where he says that Liyosi Glover, when Mashiach will come, it's written that the Oyer HaChamo and the Oyer Lavona, they will be exactly the same, like it was prior to the Miyud HaYureya. In other words, that the Shemesh and the Ureya were equal in size. They were, both of them. They had a huge mashpim, each one in his own right. And they came together in equality. And they were makabel from a much higher line. They were makabel from the Atzma saint. So, Shalamayla Mishnayhem. That's another idea. So the Rebbe said that happens also with the moon. That the moon comes to a point where she's so absolutely batel to the sun, that the sun begins giving its own self into the moon. And not just being a mashpia and having a bottle, but the sun works at making them equal. They become. So what happens is that the urea, the lavona, becomes like a sun, and they go back to being how they were, at least momentarily, prior to the whole thing. So what happens then is that then there's a much higher light, is my year, and that is Mamish Atzma saying so, and that's only going to be Bagilui Mamish when Moshe will come, or when the thing occurs every month. So that's the whole amazing principle, and the Rebbe says that Gabi certainly, it's a chiddush, it's a big chiddush. And it would be interesting to know how this relates to certain themes in Halacha, another what I'm not going to go into now. That would be a very interesting point of inquiry. But Lapoyo, that's what the Alter Rebbe says, and the Rebbe Rashab, he develops on it in this Maimah in Tov Reish Pei. And it's very interesting that the Rebbe Rashab, his influence is that not only it's going closer to the moon, but to the sun, but it becomes like the sun, and they become two equal things, and they return the whole Metzias back to how it was prior to the Miyut HaYureya, which was due to the Chedei Tzadaz, due to a negative thing. Aber Melech kommt Oislef, he said, if you think about it, comes out a very amazing principle that hidden from us in a way that we don't really notice, because we don't really have the eye. The Rebbe said you've got to open your eyes, but we still haven't actually, we don't actually observe this. But every month there's like a point where it's mamish, like what it's going to be when Mashiach will come. Yeah. So therefore the Rebbe says what you got to do is have open eyes. Yeah. Yeah. I was once by the Klosenberger Rebbe, and he gave a Shiur. I was there, and he said that the trouble is that we've got like soot in our eyes, like dust. How do you call it? Ash dust, how do you call it? From an oven, called soot. Yeah, we have that in our eyes. Therefore, we don't see clearly. But if we were to see clearly, we would see all sorts of things that would mamish change our whole existence. We would see that every month there's like a point where everything is ready for Mashiach. The moon and the sun are no longer mashpia makabel, not even a makabel that's bottled to his mashpia petaklis, but he is like the mashpia. They are one and the same thing, absolute. What's with them? They are makabel together from a much higher level, and that's Mashiach. Every month, it's clear that you reach a point where everything is there. The whole view, everything is there. But so maybe that adds to our understanding why the Rebbe said you have to open your eyes. And that's what I heard from the Klosenberg. He said if we had open eyes, clean eyes, he said if we had clean eyes, we would see a lot of things. And he even said that you would even see the base of meters, because according to certain opinions, the base of meters actually didn't. It was all a bluff on the part of the SAAT. It's all a bluff on his part. A very serious bluff. But really, if you were to have clean eyes, you'd be able to see the base of meters. Yeah. Like Yaakov, yeah, very nice. Yeah, like flat, that's what we learned last week. Exactly. Per deal. That's what we learned. That's the amazing theme and case that the Rebbe puts forth in a large part of this whole Sikha. So, like in all Inyanim, the Rebbe connected with the Parshas Shiur. Yeah. So what it boils down to is that Yaakov Avinu, he by Lavan, he didn't spend his time sitting on the sofa, smoking a cigar. But Yaakov Avinu was very, very busy. And all those amazing things that he did with the sticks and with everything. And, he got all the flock of Lavan. And there was all a tremendous form of Birulim that's brought down in the Zohar. The Siddur talks about it. And so Yaakov Avinu had prepared all that he could do, that the world could go and be ready for the Gula Shlema. In other words, it's brought down Iron Base. The Rebbe Rashab says it. The Rebbe Rashab is an amazing way of sort of defining things all according to what you might call classifications. Unbelievable. The Rebbe Rashab says over there in the Iron Base that Yaakov Avinu had made it possible for the whole Atzilas, Olam Atzilas, to be revealed in Bria Yetzilas Asiya. So if you look carefully in the Kisvei Arizal and other places, that's what's going to happen when Moshiach comes. It's also going to be Milmata Lamayla, not only but all the created worlds are all going to meet up with Atzilus. And what we consider now to be the world of us here is going to be Atzilus. Or we're going to be in Atzilus. Yaakov, with his unbelievable power of the Neshama, and he was a Neshama Claudius. He came to be Matakim, the whole Tzedek, it's brought down. And so the Alter Rebbe brings it in the Geras HaKodesh. So Yaakov was a massive figure. He didn't just sit around. So Yaakov is coming now back to Eretz Yisrael from Lower. So he thought that during those 22 years, Esau, who's got a very high source, Esau is from a very high level, that Esau probably has chapped himself, that we're moving towards a very high possibility in the whole creation of the world. He didn't imagine that Esau was sitting around in the Tsfat, puffing the cigar. He did, but unfortunately, that's what, to put it in a sort of a figurative way, that's where he was holding them, Esau. So Yaakov took Malachim, and the Rebbe says you're not supposed to take Malachim. You don't just use Malachim any old way, It's particularly if you send a human being sends Malachim to a certain shlichus, they can't keep Hashem's shlichus. Maybe Hashem might have some shlichus for them, and you made them busy with your shlichus. Then a malach can't do two things at once. It's Rashi in Parshas. He tells a malach can't do two things at once. So when you seek malachim, if you do, just imagine you have their power. You're taking a very serious step. And yet, nonetheless, Rashi said that Yaakov said malachim, that he called him angel. So that we see it's a very important Indian, something very, very ikar, that Yaakov didn't want to trust in possible Dom, that they would have a sorrow, but he's trying to give over. And he thought Esau would also be holding by this, and then they would both move into they would both move into what you might call the world higher even than it was before the Chet. And that's what the Russia brings it in a mind, that this was their whole life, that they wanted to return the world to its ideal state like it was before the Chet. That was the whole greatness of the forefathers. And Yesh Loimah, that's one of the reasons why the Goyim object to it and they get annoyed and they hate it. Like what's going on now in America, is that the Goyim, like in inverted commas, hate it because they know that Yidden have a much greater job in this world than just, goofing around, having a good time in this world. As long as you don't tread on somebody else's toes, then you can get away with everything. But Yidden are not like that. That's not the way Yidden live. Yidden have a much higher understanding of what life is all about and what their shlichus is. Even Yidden that are not openly, but they sense and they know that they have a responsibility in the world. So the Goy doesn't like that. He gets upset, he gets angry with somebody who lives on a completely different plane to him. So he objects to them, and Rahman and Islam, he can end up with serious, anti-Semitism, all this sort of vices because of that. In other words, it's like a kino or a sinner, which comes from and so it was that tremendous elevated shlichus that Yaakov had in mind when he said to Esau. And unfortunately, what did the Malachim say? They took a look at what's happening, and they came back. So according to some opinions, they actually they had a communication with Esau. It's not mentioned in the Torah. But whether you have to say that or you don't have to say that, that's a discussion. But they saw that it's the same old Esau, he hasn't changed. So they came back and they said, listen, sorry, young Rabina, but you're talking to the wrong man. He's not ready. So Yaakov realized it's going to be a difficult time. It's going to have to take time. Who knows how long. But the Rebbe, the whole message of the Rebbe is that nowadays Esau is your Shavu came Mukhan. But he's Mukhan, but a bit louder. Oh, talking too softly. It's now Esau is prepared, but you have to tell him the truth. You've got to say to him, because he's not a goyim. He's unfortunately he's dropped in status, but he's not a golem. He's not a fool altogether. And so if you tell him something that's not right, and that's ultimately a blow, he will realize that. Yeah. And then he'll say, well, they don't want to deal with the truth. Why should I bother? Let me do the best for me politically, and all the rest of it, I'll do things my way. But if you would only tell him the truth, now he would listen. You understand? He would even be ready. And he would be, how do you call it, Mizdarez. He would make a positive effort to cooperate. And we see it, you can see it happening in the world. And Yesh Lomar, that those who are going openly against you are not really from Esau. They're from, who knows? I can even suggest possibly who they're from. That's from, Amalek, or, unfortunately, Amalek is also a Henical of Esau, but he's not Esau. Yes, one could go at a lot of length into this whole thing. The Rebbe touches on it. So what I'd like to do now is come in at a certain point here, and we'll just we'll learn, like a summing up of how the Rebbe sees the situation in the light of all that we've said here. So I think if we come in on page 323, there's a heading there, Gam Esau Mukhan Legeula. If you see that. So I think in the light of what we said, that has a bit of a lead in, because then when Yaakov sent the Malachim to him, he wasn't ready. But now he is. That's the Rebbe's message. And therefore, there's all sorts of pirushim in our sages and in Midrashim, and all amazing, but the Rebbe brings some of them down. That when Yaakov sent to Esau, he was hinting to him all these different things. And even though it looks, he said, I have this, or I have that, or I've been doing this and that. But that's, it has a simple meaning, and that has a basic stability. Can you do it? However, it's also hinting at all sorts of other. And so the Rebbe learns a very interesting thing, which, as far as I know, is not written clearly in the Drush Exodus up to the Rebbe. And that is that the Rebbe really sent to Esau an appeal to go to the Geula Shlema. That's to go to the Geula Shlema. That's what it boils down to. That's the Rebbe's whole word. And it's written in Exodus what Yaakov Avinu achieved with all the Pirunim and all the amazing things he did, but that he actually invited Esau to come into the Geula Shlema, or to move towards the final steps to the Geula Shlema. I think that's an emphasis which is, how do you call it, the Rebbe's emphasis. It's like the Rebbe's chiddush. And it's an amazing idea. So what has happened since then is that we have the development of history since then is a gradual move towards being ready for the Gula Shlema, both on the part of Yidden and on the part of Esau. It's like it's taken, but there's a theme and a movement behind it which is very, very noticeable and followable. Yeah, it's just that there have been huge interruptory things, like wars and all sorts of terrible things that have, unbalanced the whole flow. The flow has been a definite one. And so the point of the Rebbe is that we've now reached a point where that flow as it were, reached its fulfillment or its finality. And that's what the Frierdiker Rebbe, that's what the Rebbe Rayatz meant when he said that we're standing at the Mizdah, we're standing at the parade of the soldiers and everything is ready. We're waiting for the general to come. You got it? And now we've reached a point where we're so ready that we're waiting, and it's kilo, understandable or not understandable why he's not appearing right at this moment. In other words, that the whole avodah now is to kabel plain Moshe. That's what the Rebbe said. Oh, never come to Esau. He said that Esau now must be ready. Otherwise, it would be a waste of time to talk like that because, Esau will just, he'll blow up the whole world with a hydrogen bomb or something. No, he doesn't want that at all. He wants to move the way the real direction is. But he wants to hear it from the he needs and he wants to hear from the we have to have a big Yeshua in that regard. So we have to have a big Yeshua that the Yidden should cut what they're really supposed to be doing. And that's a tough one. There's an old saying, in Yiddish, where you have two Yidden, you have three opinions. And that is the big problem that we face. However, the Rebbe says, under this heading, that Gam Esau Muchan Me'Geula, then Yaakov Avinu was Muchan. And Yaakov Avinu invited him to come with him to the Geula. And the Malchus said, forget it, he's not holy by that. And the Ike Yaakov was Matzliach to avoid going with him because he was not in good shape. Therefore, Yaakov very skillfully strayed out from going with him. But the plan of Yaakov Avinu originally was to go with him, to take him along. So the Rebbe says, Kol zeh mudgash akshal ba'efa miyuchad. All that we've said, that Esau is now, as it were, ready. And Al Kaponim, we can bring him into the whole picture. He said all of that is emphasized very much now, in our time. מכיוון בתקופו של יעקב אבינו, at the time that Yaakov Avinu was active, המוכנות לגאולה רק מצידו, the preparation of preparatory, I would call it, for the Geula was only from his side. And the Malachim told him that forget about Esau, he's not ready yet. Well, that was then. He said, but Esau, Esau, he's like the world. He's, let's say, the general world. Says the Rebbe, but nowadays, and now we'll understand, by the way, why it falls out. Yutes at the time when the Yoreh is getting smaller, to when the Yoreh is getting smaller, that's a sign of a much higher kirub to the etzem, like we learned before. So therefore he says, now we've got Yutes Kislev, that's the Gilead of Penimis HaTorah, Ishpashto, Ishpashto Midoel Adoel, and the Penimis HaTorah, which revealed itself on Yutes Kislev, has spread out from generation to generation. Ad shekayim kvar ishpashta Torah zu ba'olam kulai. The whole world has benefited from some influence or another of Torah success. And now you should realize that that statement is a very rare statement of the Rebbe talking about himself. Because the Rebbe says that the Frierdiker Rebbe began that whole idea of spreading out Torah success all over the world, not just in your immediate environment, or not just wherever you can put in a good word. But the Frierdiker Rebbe sent people to Morocco, and he even sent him the line, he sent them to Australia. And who knows, if I'd be sitting around this table, if not the fact that the Rebbe had sent us to Melbourne. However, that was still only parts of the world. The Rebbe says clearly, he doesn't say after I took over, but he said after the Talmidim of the Rebbe Rayatz took over, and the Talmidim of the Rebbe Rayatz began doing their work of Yeputza, Maya, Notzela, Chutza, and to reach the whole world. And what the Rebbe is virtually saying, that you got to ask him over the igloo, he also got a Beit Chabad sign on his igloo. Right? In other words, there's nowhere that hasn't reached. Right? So the Rebbe said, if that's the case, then, how can you possibly picture that the world is not ready? It's ready. The Torah from the etzem of the sun has already gone all around the world. So he said, everything is ready. Oh, this is very important, because a lot of people say, well, if all the birum and finished and everything's ready, what have we got to do still? So the Rebbe says, and I was once with the Rebbe, and I heard the Rebbe develop on this point in a very interesting way, but he get to davening. So he said, "Moving mikach shalveda kayom he rak lahovi yes is galas hamashiach bo'elam." That the avodah today is only to bring to the Gilui, not to prepare the world anymore. The world's already prepared. Now it's only to bring the Gilui. So Kumtais, it's a very special type of avodah. The oilam is already been purified. It's already undergone avodah sapirurim. It's already, whatever is being done, that is enough. Yeah. So he says, Ki oilam kwa maspik mabura. The world is already enough mabura. The Rebbe said on many occasions, there's enough pirurim already being done. Yeah. The world mitzvah, that is enough. What's the avodah? So the Rebbe says the avodah etzleinu is only to spread kedusha and oya more and more, just to add the whole time, b'toiv u'b'gilui elikus, and prepare everybody to be ready to receive Moshiach. That's all. That's what you have to do. And so when it comes to davening, the Rebbe said your davening has to be, you're adding the whole time in a deeper enthusiasm for discussions, atzmias, of the etzem and shoma of the telekus. It's a very high idea. In other words, in the old days, davening was also a struggle between the nefesh elokis and the nefesh habahamis, that the nefesh elokis want to overcome and purify more the nefesh habahamis. The Rebbe said that's already enough. It's been done enough. Now your davening is only to go higher and higher and higher in Gilui Elikus, both your neshama elikis and your nefesh abad, to take the whole mensch and elevate it continuously more. A very amazing idea. So, therefore, he says, "Es ma'alosa ha'miyuchedes shalader shalonu," the very special mila of our generation, "nita limtoi psukei hav Torah shall Parshas Vayishlach." Oh, so in Parshas Vayishlach, it talks about Esau versus Yaakov. So the Ovadia Hanovi, so from Ovadia Hanovi. So right near the end of the Haftarah, the Novi says, "V'hoyo beis Yosef lahavo," it'll be a fire, or beis Esau lekash, that the house of Joseph, it will be like a flame fire, and Esau is going to be the straw, the kash. What happens to straw if it goes into a big flame? It just gets burnt. Flames up immediately into nothing. So he said, what's going to happen after that? He said, the Yershu Esan Negev, the Yidden are going to take over an area which he calls the Negev. He doesn't just mean the Negev here in Eretz, but he means like, the southern part of the world, or something of that nature, at Tzfat. And the Yidden are going to take over Melech Mashiach. They're going to conquer everything at Tzfat until Tzfat. So the Rebbe says, what's the Shomolech? Tzfat, Tzfat. What's all of a sudden? Tzfat. So the Rebbe says that all of our Rebbeim had he could, careful about Tzfat. The Alter Rebbe worried about Napoleon very much. He wanted to, and he was very much against Tzfat, the Rebbe. And then the middle Rebbe, but we don't find a great deal. The other Rebbeim, occasionally they might have sent somebody there on a message, or they visited. The Rebbe Rashab, he would spend I don't want to use the word klopshot, because usually during those klopshot, he wrote huge memoirs, but he would spend Kaviyoko vacation in Menton, which is on the beach of south of somewhere, it's in France. So he began having a spur on certain minyanim there, it was in Sorbonne. But the Friedrich Rebbe already began a much greater relationship with France, Tzfat, and he sent Shluchim there to found the Yeshiva of Tomchet Mem. And the Yeshiva of Tomchet Mem in Brunois in Tzfat became a very big pillar in the whole education of a whole generation of young Chassidim. Dubbed through, I think you've all heard of it, and that was the famous Mashpia, Reb Nissen Nemanov. Yeah. He was called Reb Nissen. I was privileged to meet him. I actually met him, Reb Nissen. I had the privilege of having a talk with him. And he built up this yeshiva in Brunois, and that became very, very powerful, and it began affecting the whole generation. So we see that the beginning of a new relationship with Tzfat began with the Friedrich Rebbe. However, the Rebbe, like he calls himself Talmidov Shalom, Rebbe Rayatz, he sent massive shluchim all over Tzfat. The Rebbe sent them all to different areas, and in Paris and all over. So it's a massive, as you might call, like takeover of the koyches of Pnimis HaTorah inside Tzfat. So the Rebbe makes the point that Tzfat is Gematria 770. The numerical value of the word Tzfat is 770. And the Rebbe says that Yosef, Beis Yosef, Lahava, and Esau, Lakash, that's referring to the Friedrich Rebbe. He said Yosef, that was his first name. Beis Yosef is all the powers of Yosef, the people around Yosef. And Talmidov shall base Yosef, that's the Rebbe. Talmidov, they've taken over massively the whole thing. So the Rebbe said that Tzfat is also Oisius Foratsta. Foratsta. As a Mela, the Rebbe said we see that this symbol of Tzfat becomes like a whole indication of the preparation of the world for Moshiach. And the Rebbe develops on that the considerable length, and he said that is very much emphasized in our particular day and age. Mel said the Rebbe Imkain, everything is gradually becoming more and more ready, like the Helicopter soldiers standing at the parade. And it's just a question of the general coming to inspect the parade. Everything is right. And this whole discussion that the Rebbe puts into the Get and Tzolvas is like a central point to show you. But who did the Charlie Hamkoimus? I mean, I was in Australia, so I was able to see the outcome of the arrival of all these, one say, oh, it was a relatively small group, but they worshipped him on the Frierdiker Rebbe at the beginning. And then the Rebbe took over massively, and the Rebbe's influence in Australia is just, spread and spread and spread. Not only Melbourne, but you have Sydney, and you have other cities in Australia all over. It's a big continent, Australia. And gradually, the message of Pnimis HaTorah and the necessity for the Kula is spread out all over. Of a matter, we see that, says the Rebbe, that is enough for what we might call a complete conquering, which is necessary for the coming of Moshiach. You don't need to conquer every little stone. Once you've done a massive amount, that is already enough. For the sake of the ultimate plan of Hashem to restore the world to Hashem. It's enough in a massive way to make an effect. You don't have to, every little stone in the mid-place race.
Take me over.
Yeah, close. But you've already done it in a massive way. That's it. And that's the amazing message of the whole. See, that's basically how the Rebbe finishes. And then he says, Lapoyo, what have we got to do? We have to get together and make a massive Dvar. You got to make a massive, a great Dvar. And the Rebbe said, you have to make in every little city and every shkuna, and you shouldn't make only in the main center. You know? If I bring it, and he said that means that you've got to turn every little shkuna into a main center. Every little shkuna is going to have a din of a main center. So if everything is a main center, you're all ready for Mashiach. It's like how they call it, the spirit of the Fabring has become a main center all over. There's no main center because everything is the main center. That's what the Rebbe said. And then he said you have to bring with your own family. You shouldn't be careful not to forget your own. B'nai Bayis. You have to make with them a Fabring. And if you have a good friend, he happens to come into your house, and it's Yud or still several days after Yud sit down and make a little Fabring with him also. That's what the Rebbe said.
Some rabbis say that President Donald John Trump represents today Tov Sheba Esov, the good that is in Esov.
Yeah.
His son-in-law and daughter, they daven every Shabbat at Chabad Washington. If they have the right mashpia, there is a possibility for all this Hasidus, Pnimius HaTorah, to be put straight into the head of Esau. There's a possibility.
It's very interesting.
Amen.
Very interesting what
Amnon.
what Amnon said, because you should realize that there was a time when the Rebbe said that there's going to be a point in our soul that's happening in front of our eyes, that there's going to be so much confusion on the government level, and so much inability to decide what is the right line, where should you really be heading. The best thing to do, and they will wake up to that eventually, is to bring in the Goyim from the US or a similar Medina and let them make a bit of sense out of the whole situation. So I told that to a couple of people, and they said, oh, they will never agree to let anybody from outside come in. They're going to agree to that. But in the light of what he said, what Amnon just pointed out very rightly, a person of massive koyach, like the President of the United States, he's already offered. He already said he would be prepared to come in and use his influence to help. So it's not all that far away, But we don't realize, what we are heading for. It could well be that's going to prove, because they're just running around in circles. And they have said that you have to go to the Bechirot on Vov Adar. That's all that terribly far away. And they say openly that's not going to help. The same people that are making it, they say it's not going to help. And so everybody says, Coco, what are you doing? In other words, they're like, chasing their own tail. So what is needed is a strong figure that whatever he says will go. That's the only way. And that's what was with David, Amelech, and Shlomo HaMelech. And therefore Mashiach has to, according to the Rambam, be from David and Shlomo. He's going to be descended from both families, both from David and from Shlomo. The perfection of David and Melchizedek was with Shlomo. And Shlomo made peace. He had peace everywhere. He had peace with the Goyim, peace here. And whatever he said went. He was an emissary, and that's what David and Melech said. Cain Erse Hayom Hazeh, that my successor will be Shlomo Davke. And what did Bathsheba say? She said, Yechi HaMelech David Li'olam. So the Rebbe said that's indicating the holiness of Moshiach. It's all going to be forever. And so, can you understand what I'm getting at? What we need is, why do we say we need Moshiach? Because the situation is so confused that you need a koyach elyon, that whatever he says will go, And you don't like it, sorry old man, it's too bad. This is the way it's going to go. That seems to be the only way out. And so therefore, what the Rebbe has been saying is, it's mamish, getting right very close to the point of reality. It's mamish. So what can I tell you guys? This is the moment that the Rebbe joined in, and he made a kesher through the Chassidim, like he said, with the whole world. So the Rebbe is no longer just a leader. He's shot to the whole world, and he's from both sides, both the Rebbe and Reb Levi. They're from Malchus based over. He's from Malchus based over. It makes sense. The whole thing makes sense. Although we got to realize that Yud Kislev is a very key point in that regard. That's the moment that the Rebbe formed the connection. That's how he came in to the picture. He entered through the marriage with Friedrich Rebbe's daughter. Friedrich Rebbe's daughter. That's the way the Rebbe moved into the whole thing. So it's a very key moment when you think about it. And it's all developing. You see these amazing seekers. It's ever such a real. It's not just, brilliance. It's ever. And that's the nakuda that we're facing. And therefore, listen, we gotta realize that we're holding at a very rare moment. It's very difficult, but we've got to hold on. We have to hold on with the Rebbe together. You understand? That's very important. And I think that strange and distant as it may sound, this idea of some dictator or leader who would be a tremendously elevated person, or that it's gradually forming people's minds. I mean, what else is there possible to say? They're going to it costs the country trillions to make a third election. And they themselves say that they don't see it's going to help. So why are you doing it? They have nothing else to suggest. And the whole scene is just so of a mela. It's a moment and a point where a high and very elevated figure needs to, as it were, in some way take over. Well, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. Take Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi. He was called Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi. Now, the how do you call it? Koheles Yaakov, he tells us that the word Nasi is a Rosh Hashanah, how do you call it, acronym of Nitzot Shel Yaakov Avinu. So, Nitzot Shel Yaakov, that's the word Nasi. And so, Yaakov Avinu, we see Yaakov Avinu was all in favor of heading immediately with Esau to Moshiach. And Yaakov Avinu wanted to bring this message to the whole world. So what he called him, Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, he was very good pals with Antoninus. And Antoninus was the sub-case, or if not the full case. He was a very leading figure in the whole hierarchy of Rome. And he became completely devoted. And he just accepted unquestionably whatever. And there's even a swallow that he was ready for Gerus. He wanted to be Mitgeya. And so through that, Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi had a whole big finger in all sorts of pies. He wasn't just a rabbinic leader, he was massive. So that's what we need now. We need Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi. So who is his descendant? Yeah, the Rebbe. That's Nitzot Shel Yaakov Avinu. Pilipla. And Katie, he wrote to Shem Shalom.
Amen.
It's what do? We just remain speechless. Unbelievable, circumference. What do you say about
Yeah, whoa. What did this go here? Here, pick one, whatever you want. Pick one. I don't see the either. Yes. Could you put the gun behind you?
made a new emoji. Just David just made a new emoji.
Yeah.
They made a new emoji for Chabad Sikhs.
Blow your head. Yes, I saw that a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I just saw that. A week or two ago. It blew my mind to see it.
I left my phone in the car, so I'm gonna go. If I've lost it, then Rabbi Mardel will come and pick me up by Reb Hillel's house.
Are you going to stay in the car?
But if I don't have my phone, he'll come and pick me up. He'll come and walk to the car. Maybe I lost my
Could
phone.
be that you might have left it somewhere.
Sorry.
Could be you might have the car.
I do have it. Maybe I lost it. It was,
That's what I mean.
yeah.
You heard that?
Yeah.
So if it eventuates that you don't have it,
And, looks like that's a lead.
just go.
Okay. Or call me, send somebody to pick me up and then I'll.
If you look mine,
I don't know. Look.
Rabbi Gafne, Reb Mendel Kesson says that Donald Trump is a Gilgul of Antoninus, Aurelius Antoninus.
Thank you. Who said that?
Reb Mendel Kesson.
A Mendel paper.
Kesson.
Paper.
Kesson.
Yeah.
I think he's in Connecticut, in New Haven, or?
He lives in Jerusalem now.
He said that he's a guru of Anthony.
Yeah.
No, he's something, that's for sure. I don't know if he's a
It's
guru.
interesting that you said he was,
That's probably not far from it.
maybe he was.
Perhaps it's right on the map. That's for sure. It's not far from it.
That's too
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Amen.
This gentleman also, the wine or.
He got one.
Arak.
He has one.
He wrote a scotch. It's a nice,
Amen.
Rabbi Marzel said there's a rock in one of them.
Amen. Were you able to understand?
This looks clear.
Yeah,
Not
South
bad.
African.
good Arak. Homemade. You have also some stuff.
It's the same dialect.
This is a rock right here. Who would like a rock? Rock? A rock?
Yeah. I think you down at Simon, you down at the Kislev.
It's funny you said you don't.
This is
It's my birthday.
It's your birthday.
That's a rock.
So you down at Simon is mentioned over here.
Yeah, I saw it. I caught that.
The half year of winter is half year, the third month. This is the third one.
Yeah, I saw there was a connection there between Kislev and
Would you
Simon.
like a
Third
rock?
month of the summer and third month of the winter.
A rock?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
A rock? Yaakov, rock? How about you, Duran?
Amen.
Amen.
Chaim.
I don't need more plates of them, I'll put some tuna fish on. You can put these crackers on.
You can take my plate.
Plates, you can put it on 2 plates first.
Here, Governor, pour these under there. Take his life.
You need another plate?
Time behind, gentlemen.
Want this on 2 plates also? Put this on 2 plates? Yeah, it'll be messy. Huh?
This is vodka, huh? Rabbi Joe, one is rock and one is vodka?
No. A rock.
Is this vodka? Is that vodka? I don't know. Say he doesn't know.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ki adamah.
It smells like a vodka to me. More of two. Does anybody want vodka? That was simple. Only added butter.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehachani v'dvar.
Amen.
Amen.
Chaim.
I'm a bracha. This is really bracha.
Chaim.
Fine.
Could I have some of that tuna?
About quarter right on with it. That's great.
So, Chaim.
Amen.
The Sue, the Rebbe Rebbetzin, it's a mazel tov for them, then a mazel tov for us.
Amen. I am.
Yeah. Oh, I just shama b'yare Yehuda, v'chol tzayzir Yerushalayim, kol sasan v'kol simcha, kol chasan v'kol kala. Oh, I just shama b'yare Yehuda, v'chol tzayzir Yerushalayim, kol sasan v'kol simcha, kol chasan v'kol kala. I just want my baby, over home, cause you're in the light. I saw some of the same heart, I just want my baby, over home, cause you're in the light. I saw some of
Must be worked tonight.
Hey.
Maybe.
So, I want to try and bring over but I'm wrong way. And that is that I'll begin with there's a sikha from the Rebbe, where the Rebbe brings a medrash in Parshas Vayishlach at the end. It's written that Vayishlach לפני ערב, או לסוח, בשדה לפני ערב. So Yitzchak went out from somewhere to Alcides teach us, and that means he went out to daven. He was meyasid Tfilas Mincha. So the Medrash asks the question, Mehechan Yoto, where did he go out from? It could have just been written. Yitzchak in Palel, Yitzchak Soch Sodeh, was Yitzchak Lasua Sodeh. Where did he go out from? So there are more than one opinion over there where he went from. And if I'm not mistaken, Rashi brings possibly what might be an attempt to answer that question. Rashi says he was coming back from bringing his later wife to his father, Romvino. And he came out, and then he went into the field where Rivka was coming. You can't hear me?
No,
I have to speak up. And because I hear my own voice, so just like before, I didn't know exactly what's happening, so I shouted. Now I hear myself, so I think I can talk normally. So anyway, what it comes down to is that, there's a question, where did he go out from? What Vayishlach Yitzchak? So there's one opinion over there in the Medrash which says, Mi Gan Eden Yotzo. Yeah, he went out from Gan Eden. Now that doesn't mean that Yitzchak passed away and he was already in Gan Eden and he came down in order to get married. That's not the pshat. No, Yitzchak was in Gan Eden. So the Rebbe said, what was Yitzchak doing in Gan Eden? Elamai, he knew that the time was approaching, that he was going to have to set up a Jewish home. Yeah, he was going to have to get married, and he was going to have to bring his wife into the oil of his mother, Sorry, made the whole thing. And he knew this was a very significant and what we might call massive commitment, to enter. This is good for you. Yeah, entering into the bond of marriage and so on. So Yitzchak decided, with his very powerful abilities, he decided the best thing is to be in Gan Eden. Go to the Gan Eden, and when will come the moment that he's got to go to the chuppah, then he'll come down. He'll come down from Gan Eden. And maybe that is the basis of why it is that nowadays in Lubavitch, when a Baruch becomes a chosen, you send him to the Rebbe. He goes off to the Rebbe. And he comes back, just in time to go into the chuppah. So Vayishlach says that that's like going up into Gan Eden. So ask yourself the question, it's like a retreatist approach. Be in the world, prepare yourself, and get everything ready, very meduyach, and be a balbatish chosen. What are you doing going up to Gan Eden and then just coming out of Gan Eden at the moment you need to go to the chuppah? So the Rebbe gives the answer that Adarabah, the best way to prepare to be a man in this world is to be out of the world. You get out of the world, and then you'll know how to be effective in this world. And the Rebbe says, based on my old cloud, that there's a saying, I think I made this point in the Shiur, in the Tzemach, I think. Yeah, exactly. That there's an old saying in Yiddish that a guest, kommt auf a Weile und zet a Mile. He comes only for a short time, a guest, but he sees everything that you're doing normally, and he can see what's going on in the house, and he can immediately give you all sorts of very good advice. And he's only been there for a short while, and he doesn't intend staying around here. So the question is, why is that? What is the El Tafki? Because he's not involved. He was involved in the situation. He saw Mavul, and he saw, not necessarily, but that can occur, But even if he doesn't get Mavul, he's limited because he's very affected and okay he's under the influence of the situation. But the guest, he comes and he's like a detached figure. So he sees perfectly what needs to be done. And his advice is usually good. So therefore, the Rebbe said that Yitzchak realized that for him to be a very good and effective leader of a household that would lead the whole Jewish people to its ultimate target. And on the contrary, the Gemara says we brought it down several times. Yeah, we brought it down several times that the Osid Lovei, we're going to say to Yitzchak, Ato Avinu, the Ike of the Ovis, the Osid Lovei, is going to be Davki Yitzchak. It's going to be, so we see that Yitzchak, he knows very well what he's got to do with this world. On the contrary, he's going to lead it, and he's going to be the leader when it's going to reach the finality. Yeah. So the Rebbe said, in order for him to carry that out, in order for him to do that effectively, he went up into Gan Eden. And if you're in Gan Eden, you're away from it all. And when you come back, you're like a guest. And so they come back and you're a guest, you see what has to be done. And you see what has to be done very effectively. So what it boils down to is that maybe perhaps that's why we send the Chassanim nowadays to the Rebbe. Being by the Rebbe is in Gan Eden. I don't imagine a better Gan Eden than being by the Rebbe. Imam Eli, you live in a different world, for a few weeks, and when you come back, you see what you got to do. You're aware, like with the power of the guest, because you are not involved, how to call it, swept up in the whole situation. But somebody that's in it day after day, he gets very involved, sometimes in a way which is not useful. So let's say, this is what I suggested for bringing Yud Kislev. That's what the Mittler Rebbe, that's what he wanted to do to all the Hasidim. The Mittler Rebbe wanted to take people up into a higher world, where they would live in a world of very high concepts and explain the plane, not just to play with the idea, but to be in it, to really. So that when you come back home after learning the Middle of Rebbe's stuff, being involved, come back home, you're like a guest, you haven't been here, you've been out of it, you've been up in Atzilus, and therefore there's a story. I'm running a bit out of but I'll tell you the story that the Mittler Rebbe once said to his Gabbai, that he called him, his personal attendant, he said to him, please go out into the street and ask people what they say about me. So the governor was very struck by what seemed to him to be a very strange. Mittler Rebbe never seemed to think about himself, and what could be the shlichus, but please go out and find out what people say about me. So he's a very faithful Gabbai, so he decided to do what the Rebbe told him. So he went out in the street and he asked a lot of people, and after a certain time he came back, and so the Mittler Rebbe had him come in to him, and he said, no, what did you hear? So he said, Rebbe, he said, all the people I asked, all said about you that in Nistar, in the hidden aspect of the Torah, you're very, very great. And they don't know if anybody can rival you. You're tremendously great in the Chassidas and the Nistar, But in the Nikla, they said there could be this, this greater one. He probably knows what you need to know, but that's not his forte. He's into the Nistar and Chassidas. So the Rebbe, Mittler Rebbe answered him And he said, they have a good point. He said, however, he said, had I devoted myself to the Negro the way I should have, the way I could have, then he said, there wouldn't be any Geonim in this generation that could match me. He said, Lo hayu moitzim es yedeim es ragleihem bebeis hamedrash. It's a lesson in the Gemara. I mean, they wouldn't have found their way around. He would have classed them altogether. So he said, so the Rabbi said, Rabbi, why didn't you give yourself over to the Negro? You know, what was it? So the Mittler Rebbe said the whole reason that I devoted myself so much to the Hasidus was I wanted to bring about that when two young light would meet in the market, and they're walking around and they would meet, they would say to one another, what is happening in Atik and in Arik? And so Atik is Penimus Akesa, and Arik is Verus Commons Chitainis Akesa. So he wanted them when two younger light would meet, they would talk about what's happening. And the Friediger Rebbe has another, had got text, another Girsa of the Maisa, that's brought down in the Sefer Sichas, Toshi Gimon. The Rebbe brings it down in a footnote in the Dvar Malchus, either the week before, last week or the week before. The Friediger Rebbe says that what he said was that he wanted that Yingalai would be able to talk about Esses Filas or Tzilas with the same intimacy that they would talk about their own 5 fingers. Yeah, that's what the Friediger Rebbe brings down. Well, however, the Kola opinions and the Kola texts, it comes out that the Mittler Rebbe wanted that the light should be up very, very high. So he's making a generation of Batalonim, the people, particularly that the word Atik means moved out. And the word Atik means separate, moved out. So the Mittler Rebbe also, he's sending his Chassidim to Gan Eden. What is the achievement of that? Well, that meant that, on the contrary, when they went back to their homes, and when they were homes, they knew better what to do, because they weren't mixed up in it. They were like in their own affairs, yes, like a guest. So a guest sees better and clearer what he has to do. That's what the Rebbe suggests in the Sikha, that's why Yitzchak, with his great power, he took himself up into Gan Eden, and he was in Gan Eden until he went to the Chuppah. When he went to the Chuppah, he already came down to this world, but he was a guest. He hadn't been there for a long time, and he'd been in Gan Eden. So the same thing when you're by the river for a few weeks, you take off. Oh, that's a healthy thing. That's a good thing. Because when you come back down, you are a guest. You're a guest by your own affair. And now it'll make sense why, by Yidden, all the generations, and especially even by the fathers, there's always been yeshivas. The Gemara says, Masechet Yuma, Avraham Avinu was a Rosh Yeshiva. He had a yeshiva. Yitzchak had a yeshiva. Yaakov Avinu, he went to Eva for 14 years. And then it's brought down the Gemara, but he also had his own yeshiva afterwards. He had his own yeshiva, Yaakov Avinu. What are they doing in yeshivas?
And he sent Yehuda ahead to Mitzrayim to make a yeshiva. Yehuda.
Yeah, but it's a very good point. Yaakov Avinu sent Yehuda ahead because he didn't want to be in a place where he wouldn't have a yeshiva. Now, what's the matter of having a yeshiva? When you're in a yeshiva, you're like in Gan Eden. You have nothing what to do the whole day but just learn Torah. Just in it the whole time. And if you need a little bit of something to eat, then there's somebody that he breaks his head out to bring in money and have to look after the place. And so it's not your worry. And you get your little bit of food, either more mahuda, less mahuda, it's quality, but you get something, and you look after yourself, and you just have the whole day, If that's Gafne, if Yitzchak Avinu, he was showing the way for all the generations. He was showing, hack yourself around in a yeshiva, be in a yeshiva, and then go to the chuppah. So, just know from your middle small. He will know very good what he's supposed to be doing. Because he's like us. He's like us. So he'll know very well what he's supposed to be doing. It all comes together.
The last years, even the Kabbalah Sponim before the Chuppah is in the yeshivas. They make the Kabbalah Sponim for the Chosim.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a mimer.
Yeah, because Tomchet Mimim is like an ideal world. And it's Gan Eden. We have to realize that all those people that they learned, I've told you this before, all those who learned in the first Tomchet Mimim of the Rebbe Rashab, they all became big, either Rabbonim or Shochatim or Malantim or Mashpiyim in communities, which means they couldn't just sit around the whole time davening. They were very, very committed to effective action, in the Dvar. And they were called Chayalei Lubavitch, like the soldiers of Lubavitch. And how did they get it? The whole time the Rebbe Rashab had them up on the contrary, that was the success. That's what made them very effective leaders of the public life, all of them, even those who used to daven for hours and hours. They went out and became. So how does it come together? Oh, that's a principle. The Vayetze Yitzchak, Gan Eden Yatza, you say. He came out of Gan Eden. You want to be an effective, a family man, hack yourself around in a yeshiva. And you should realize that, I'm finishing, it's brought down and there's a word from the Maggid, and the Maggid says that if you sit around Thursday night in a group and you learn the Parshas of Shiur, preferably he said with Rashi, because Rashi, so the Rebbe also bases himself on Rashi, but if you sit around, then you are Mariach, the Reyach of Gan Eden. That's what the Maggid said. If you sit around a table on Thursday night, you smell Gan Eden. What do you need to smell Gan Eden for? Because that's the Bechina. You get yourself on Thursday night, you sit around learning Torah together, up to Gan Eden. And so,
Moshe Ben Arush.
I'm going around. That's the old saying, have it all, see you later.
The middle Rebbe was Dafke, the one that was Yasid, all the Yeshuvim.
All the colonials.
All the colonials. They knew about Gashmias. Together with that, they say the middle Rebbe didn't know what Suas Matbeya.
Know what was that?
No, the coins that come.
They didn't know.
Right now?
Used to talk about all sorts of business in Yarden. He didn't even know the coin.
How's that go together?
Moshe Ben Arush is the one that comes every now and then to the Sephardic. It's part of Ben Arush. Moshe Ben Arush. Not Shimi Ben Arush. Moshe Ben Arush.
Oh, very good.
Good Arab, no?
He's the one that's a Chatan? It was the Chaim at the same.
Told, right? Everybody told. The 50s at a time. Everyone else is like that, probably. Okay. End screen.
All Israel,